Good evening, everyone. This is the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, November 18th. Please be advised, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with Executive Order 202.1, members of the public will not be attended to attend the board meeting in person. Members of the Board of Education will attend the meeting remotely via Google Meet. The meeting can be viewed via live stream on November 18th at www.eastauroraschools.org/BOE-MTG Live or via the link on our main district webpage. In addition, the meeting will be recorded and transcribed at a later date. In addition, if you have a comment or statement that you would like to have read during visitor comments, please email them to boe@eak12.org prior to 6:45 p.m. this evening, November 18th. The board president or district clerk will read visitor comments during the appropriate time during the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to have a motion to enter executive session to discuss matters related to a particular student, history of 5 particular employees, and matter related to a particular corporation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Dan.
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What's that put us at? 6-0. All right, everyone close this link, follow the link to executive session. See you there.
Good evening, everyone. This is the East Aurora Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. I just remind folks that as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with Executive Order 202.1, members of the public are not permitted to attend tonight's meeting in person. Members of the Board of Education are attending the meeting remotely via Google Meet. It can be viewed via live stream tonight at www.eastaurora.schools.org, BOE/MTG Live, or via the link on our main district webpage. In addition, the meeting is being recorded and transcribed at a later date. We had asked folks to email their questions that normally would be raised during visitors' comments to our Board of Education email address. Jackie Whopper, I don't believe we received anything for this evening, did we?
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you. We are returning, the Board of Education is returning from executive session where they discuss matters related to a particular student, the employment history of 5 particular employees, and matters related to a particular corporation. Mr. Russ, any agenda changes?
No.
So there's no items requiring board action on the immediate agenda. We're on to superintendent's comments.
You know what? I'll save them for when we speak about the update on the model.
Okay. Board presidents and board members' comments and committee reports. I only have one thing this evening. I had attended and signed up for the virtual New York State School Board Association convention that took place at the end of October. For those that signed up, I don't know if who all signed up. I know a couple of you did, but there are educational sessions that are still online that you can view. Go back and look at something that you missed that you had an interest in until the end of this year. They're going to be up until the end of December. And as part of that meeting, I attended the business meeting on Halloween. And I sent earlier today a copy of the positions adopted at the 2020 annual business meeting. These are the positions that the New York State School Board Association is going to advocate and advance through, urge for legislation in particular areas. I just want to highlight a couple because they're sort of more germane to East Aurora than some of the others, although, they all obviously might impact us in some way or the other. One of them was that the School Board Association would advance or advocate for an overhaul of current the inadequate testing system to more accurately measure achievement and skills, knowledge, and abilities by working collaboratively between the state education department, superintendents, administrators, and teachers to create those tests, insisting that educators throughout the state be included in all aspects of creating those tests, and demanding that district personnel be permitted to examine test results and answer keys so that they can better assess how to respond to testing results. That comes up, every couple of years. I know those tests were canceled, but to the extent they come back, that will be something on NYSBA's agenda this year. Also, one was to support legislation at the state or federal level that would allow and enhance the sharing of services amongst districts and municipalities. We've tried to do that, most particularly with Holland, and so they're going to try to get additional legislation passed to be able to allow us to share services. Another was to support proposals to incorporate pre-kindergarten funding into the school aid formulas used for K-12 education. I don't know, maybe Dan Brunson would remember what year it was that we had put together a plan to have pre-K in East Aurora, but we haven't been able to do that. We had a plan in place. If they put funding back in, I'm sure we're going to have to come up with another plan. It's been so long. I feel like it's been almost a decade. Another one was to support legislation that would enable the Commissioner of Education to declare alternate election arrangements in cases where a disaster substantially interrupts a scheduled school board or budget vote. Obviously, since the pandemic hit last spring and we had those changes in the budget date, the process, and all of that, this would allow the Commissioner of Education to provide for alternate arrangements instead of it coming from the governor's office. And the other one that I would highlight is one that that NYSBA would oppose mid-year state aid cuts and to advocate for additional funding from both the state and federal governments to compensate school districts for COVID-19 related expenses for the 2020-21 school year, which would allow for educational continuity and fiscal stability for school districts. Those were the highlights. It's always an interesting meeting. I can tell you sort of one of the shockers for me was it was all virtual, and it was different than holding up our paddles. They were able to vote online. They did do some initial polling, and there was better than 50%. I would think it was 45 to 55% of school districts that were holding in-person meetings. So 55% had transitioned by October to having in-person meetings. 45% of us were still holding virtual meetings. But I think this new transition to Orange is going to have many more districts going back to virtual school board meetings. So that's all I have for this evening. Jessica, did you have anything?
Thanks, Mary Beth. Thanks for attending the business meeting on our behalf. I always appreciate you taking that on. I also got to participate in the NYSBA virtual convention. I thought it was amazing what they pulled off this year. And one of the great challenges of the convention is that you can't get to all of the sessions. and they're all there live, which are recorded, which is great. I do miss the interaction, but there's a lot of material there to learn from, shorter and more concise. Some folks handled it better than others, but there's great opportunity to learn things about collective bargaining, personnel, mental health. Conversation with SED was informative, and others. And I don't know if anybody got to hear the keynote speakers. I thought they were absolutely amazing. And one takeaway that I made sure I wrote down so I could read it to myself over and over again, was that their success was possible because they supported each other.
Yeah,
That's great for us to remember. Just
that
about
was a
any-
great. That was a fun one.
It was a fun one. In other news, and many of you may have already seen, it looks like ECASB is finally making a move to do things virtually. I missed the virtual legislative breakfast. The announcement went out a little too late for me to attend, but it looks like they're making an effort to go virtual with those meetings, so we may be able to participate safely. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Terry Allweiler.
I also attended virtually the NISBA conference. I did 7 sessions so far. I love the fact that we can go back to them at any time. There's at least 3 more that I want to go back to and listen to. I thought they were great. The PACT, amazing. Those 3 men. The third man who spoke was my favorite. He said at one point that he was so poor that he didn't have the OR in poor. That's how poor he was growing up. And the other comment he made, which really, I actually wrote it down. I went back and rewound and played it again. You can aim for what you can't aim for what you cannot see. I just thought that they were 3 amazing men, and they've come so far. And as Jessica said, it's because they had this pact and they worked together. And now as we're hitting a second round of COVID, where it seems like we may be quarantining, we are all going to, again, need to really make sure we are sticking together and supporting one another, because as we're getting COVID weary, we really need to be sticking together and making sure that we're following the rules so we can get our kids hopefully back in school safely. So I thought that virtually, I liked it. I prefer in person, but I like the fact that I now can go back and rewatch and rewind, and I really like that part of it as well. I just wanted to mention, Brian, I'm not sure if you were going to mention this or not. Just a reminder, tomorrow night is the East Aurora Educational Foundation event for Rich. I wasn't sure if you were going to mention or not. I just wanted to remind everyone.
I was going to bring that up later on, but yeah, that's great, Terry. Go ahead. Yeah.
7 p.m. on Facebook, and it's to honor Rich Clemens. So anything else you want to add, Brian, about that?
Yeah, no, you know, it is. Yeah, we had a really unique situation again this year. And I think the foundation has done a really nice job. We had a very small gathering for Rich, who's being honored as the James Ford recipient. And we had an opportunity. Mark did a tribute. Rich spoke, and then I accepted an honor from the foundation, which will all be on Thursday evening. And then they have some other pieces of that they would like to share. Very different than what they've done in the past, but again, very creative in a way to continue that tradition. And of course, recognize Rich, who is very deserving. So if you can attend, it's tomorrow, as Terry said, at 7 p.m. So it should be very nice. I don't think it's going to be very long, but I think it'll be very, very meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you. John Seghetti, anything this evening?
Hi, everybody. Nothing on committee, but just want to pass on that what a great job the administration has done executing the hybrid and communicating to everybody. I've heard from not less than 50 people that they're very impressed how this has gone off. So congratulations.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Judy Malus.
I just wanted to thank Matt Brown. He met with me and Ms. Stegler and Ms. Cook the other day about special ed in the middle school in particular, and in general, because I've been concerned about special ed kids in general and their ability to handle some of this on their own, focus-wise, and to retain and to process and so on. And I really appreciated it because I came away with just a greater appreciation, maybe heightened appreciation is a better word, of our special ed teachers. They're just phenomenal. And I was just so proud of them. Not that they're my teachers in particular, but I just came away feeling really good about them. And I think in the midst of all that we've been going through, the administration has done a phenomenal job, but so have our teachers. And they've stepped right up to the plate. And I just was very pleased. And I want to thank you, Matt, for that time.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you.
Dan Brunson,
Thank you. I have nothing to add this evening.
Kim Daniel,
Hi, everyone. I did attend the pre-convention law conference for the School Boards Association, and that was really well done. I have to talk to probably Sue, because I would like to print up all of the various items and handouts that they had, because I think it would be worthwhile to at least have one copy of it for the board. And if other people want a copy, we do have that available to us. So I thought it was really well done. The focus, obviously, it was on all of the various issues that have come up related to COVID. That was kind of the focus of the first day. The second day, they moved on to more general conversations, but I thought overall it was an excellent conference. I was really glad I was able to attend that. So
could we maybe save
Yeah.
them electronically instead of printing them off so that folks could just get them?
I could do that.
signed?
Yeah, I have to go
Yeah.
back on and see. I can see and do that. So I'll look at that. But I personally would like to, if possible, get a hard copy of it, just because I think it's at least one of them. So I will do that, Mary Beth.
I didn't miss anybody on the board, right? Administrators' comments. I'm gonna go down the line. Mark Membretti.
I'm just happy to be here. Good to see all your smiling faces.
Jerome Polakowitz.
Good evening, everybody. I'll save my comments for the pupil services report.
Okay, thanks, Jerome. Joanne George. During your financials.
Thank you. I'll save on my comments for my report.
Okay, thanks. Bill Roberts.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to confirm, Mr. Russ, we're going to talk about our plans moving forward at a later time. Okay. So then I'll use my time to let everyone know that yesterday and then again tomorrow, we had our National Honor Society induction ceremony. We split it into two groups in respect to our blue group and our red group, and had a brief ceremony just with our students. But we're just thrilled to be able to have that opportunity to induct close to 40 incredible seniors. And I commended them on their success and their perseverance, and really, when looked around the room, just amazing young men and women who've handled a difficult situation as well as we could have asked for. So one may have been related to Jessica Armbrust. And we will have our second half inducted tomorrow. Our cameraman, Mr. Moore, documented the event, and we're looking forward to sending pictures home to all of the parents and to the students to remember the special event. The other comment that I wanted to make was, and I don't believe Mr. Caselny is here tonight, is he, Mr. Ambretti? No. So I'll step in and just want to congratulate our fall athletes. We had quite possibly one of the most successful fall seasons that I've ever witnessed at East Aurora High School, and that included division championships in swimming, boys soccer, girls soccer, boys cross country, girls cross country, and tennis. And then with an abbreviated season, we did still pull off section championships. and we hosted many of those events, and it was many late nights for Mr. Moore and Mr. Caselny cheering on our teams. But we ended up winning section championships in girls swimming, girls soccer, boys cross country, and girls cross country. So again, as successful as we have ever seen, and could not be more proud of the way that our coaches and our athletes adhered to our expectations on and off the field during practice time. They were truly role models when it comes to competing and maintaining the safety guidelines that we expected of them. So again, a tremendously successful fall season. In regards to winter sports, yesterday we had heard that some sports were going to be able to start in a couple of weeks. That was going to be indoor track and boys swimming. And then more of those high contact sports were going to be pushed off until later on in the winter. But today there was a change in that plan, and all sports have been pushed off for the foreseeable future. So that's still a work in progress, and we'll be monitoring that as we move forward through the next couple of weeks.
Bill, do we have any sense of when they need to start to run in order for them to run at all?
Well, it looks like Chris Caselny has joined
Chris,
us.
I was going to say, Chris
Wonderful.
Caselny just joined.
So maybe I'll have you ask him, because I'm winging it here, Mary Beth.
Sure.
Okay.
I apologize for being late.
No worries. I don't know if you heard what I asked. I understand sports are canceled for now, or pushed off, and I just asked Mr. Roberts whether we have any sense of when they need to start in order for them to have any chance of running at all.
Well, the low risk and moderate risk sports have been postponed until, as of right now, until December 14th. And then the high risk sports, as of right now, have been postponed until January 4th. And those would be the start dates. Now, the interesting thing is that the quote unquote fall 2 season is slated to start March 1st, and that's football and volleyball. So I'll just use basketball and wrestling. If they were to start January 4th, I can't see the state running them, overlapping them too far with that fall 2 season, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I would imagine they do something similar that they did in the fall, which would be like an 8-week season, 7 to 8 week season. That's as much as I know right now. But that date has not been given, like an end date. As of right now, all winter state championships are still on the schedule. I don't know if that will stay that way, but as of right now, they are.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think just now that Chris is here, another thank you to Chris. It was as busy a fall athletic season as we've ever experienced. There were late night events almost every single night of the week. And so Chris provided opportunities for our athletes to compete, and he was at every single event. And it was just quite well done for someone who was jumping into this for the first time. So just want to publicly thank Chris for his leadership, his guidance, and support of our student athletes.
And I'll just say I'll say a big thank you. Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I'd like to second that. Yeah, Chris has done a fantastic job jumping into this when he did. Kind of a baptism by fire. And he really stepped up and kept me well informed. Lots of changes every day, and trying to work with our students and our parents to provide them with these experiences, but at the same time making sure that everyone is safe. Many times when I was at the games, I was watching our athletes who actually had their masks on the field. Some of them did not, but many of them did. Many of them on the sidelines. I was kind of watching for those types of things, and I was very pleased with that message getting to them and how important it was to maintain their safety while they were enjoying their sport. And, as Bill mentioned, we had a really great season, probably one of our most successful in a long time. So our kids just played really well. So we're glad that they were able to have those experiences. And even towards the sectional finals, as things were tightening up this past weekend, we were able, for the girls' soccer finals, able to allow parents to attend. So they were really appreciative. That took a lot of work and strategy in terms of maintaining all the rules and protocols to make sure that, again, they were safe. So just really appreciative, Chris, for everything you've done. It's been very positive.
I wanted to just say thank you to all of you. I mean, especially Bill and Travis for your support on some of those nights. And I happened to pick the right nights when I couldn't be there because Bill and Travis caught the unruly fans from some other districts and gave them quite an earful on a couple occasions. You darn Biden supporters, you. But I just wanted to say thank you for the assistance and the support. It's been interesting. That's for sure. And hopefully we get the opportunity to provide our winter athletes with something. I'm not sure what that means right now, but hopefully something. Hopefully we can provide them with something in a safe way.
Well, I want to congratulate you all for a job well done, because I think throughout the fall, one of the things that we've sort of talked about is we haven't had a community spread in our schools, and that you were able to pull off an athletic season that people were kind of a little skeptical about whether or not that was going to put kids at risk. Congratulations. We didn't have any community spread. So I commend you folks, and I certainly commend our athletes for doing it in a way that kept them and their classmates and coaches all safe in the process. Mr. Moore, anything?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us here this evening. The only thing that I'll add to what Bill said is a couple weeks ago, we also did our Fall Fest, and that went off really it was with a bang. I mean, it metaphorically and literally as pumpkins splashed on the ground. We had so many people contributing to it, the tech department building the trebuchet, all the clubs, the Spirit Club, exec board, student government, just contributed to an environment that really, I think, was enjoyable and fun for our students and promoted just a festive atmosphere. So thanks to all those that helped with that. And it was a great success, I think.
If I could just comment on that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I can just comment on that, just want to thank Ryan Wall and Brian Cray, who built the trebuchet, because somebody came down to their office and said, "Hey, I heard of this great idea. What do you guys think about building this thing?" And it took them many, many evenings to pull that together in time for the Fall Fest. So I'm particularly grateful for their work and effort in making that happen. It was just a lot of fun. And I happened to be there, and the kids were really enjoying it. So there was many things. So like Jessica Arias, a lot of coordination and making the event special for the kids and trying to give them some sense of normalcy. It was really quite wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Russ, thank you for being that person to tell them that was a great idea to build a trebuchet.
Matt Brown, anything this evening?
Sure. Good evening. Just a few comments. Today was an exciting day. We are conducting multiple interviews at the middle school. Great time to run interviews, by the way, as we go through this process. But some of our teachers, we have a long-term sub who accepted a full-time position in a different district, and someone else accepted another position. So we're filling 2 vacancies right now. And today we met with some candidates who are phenomenal. We're very excited about them. But the one thing that really brought chills to me today was in 4 separate interviews, and this is with 2 separate committees as well. So this is probably about 8 teachers on these 2 separate committees. The candidates asked the question, why do you love working in East Aurora? Or why do you love the middle school? A lot of times the candidates ask questions at the end. And what really made me proud was almost word for word what Jessica said a few minutes ago about the only way to succeed or achieve your goals is supporting each other. almost word for word, every single teacher made that comment about supporting each other and the support system that we have in the schools. And the reason why I was so proud of that is because it wasn't just from people in this room, although we are all, supporting each other, but they were talking about each other. They were talking about the teachers' aides that are in their classes going above and beyond. They were talking about parents. They explained how they're getting or receiving emails from multiple parents thanking them. Is it perfect? No. Are there hurdles that we're facing and times that we fall down? Absolutely. But the fact that everyone is in this together and picking each other up and supporting each other, it was just that was the hierarchy of what I walked away with today. And then we finish a round of interviews and I walk out into the main office and there are 3 big boxes of coffee, all kinds of granola bars, organic, foods, donuts, because you have to have both the healthy and the unhealthy. And there was this huge spread there, and it was from a parent, we have no idea who, that just decided to drop them off and at the middle school, and it was anonymous. And those are just the type of things that really do make a difference because it does show that everyone has each other's back. So that was just something that I thought I would share. A lot of the comments that are made here, they go a long way, and the teachers really appreciate the support, and I think the students see it as well. The other thing I just wanted to add, and I'll speak more about the instruction later, is yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago, when the decision was made or the decision was communicated that we will be moving to the remote model next Monday. I was standing at the back door, as I do every day, and the students were walking out, and every single student that I spoke with commented on how disappointed they are, that they won't be back in school. Many of them yesterday made the comments, I'm not going to see you till after Thanksgiving. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And although in a way that makes me sad, obviously, because we won't see them, it also encourages me because I think through this pandemic, the students have really realized how important school is in their life and these connections. And I think if anything, it's made that stronger. And I truly do believe through all of this that we will be better off in the long run. I truly do believe that. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Where am I? Jessica Lyons, Parkdale.
Hi, everybody. So we tried to bring some normalcy to our students too these past couple weeks. We ended up being able to have our Halloween parade outdoors. It was actually my first one outdoors. The last 3 Halloweens, it has rained or snowed on parade day, so we ended up having to do it inside. And knowing this year doing it inside was not a possibility, we were really, really happy that the rain and the snow held off. It was pretty cold, but all of the kids were able to get outside. We paraded around the whole block. Lots of spectators that were socially distanced, and it was just a really nice opportunity because they couldn't have the parties they normally have in their classrooms to get out and show off their costume and see their loved ones waving to them from the sidewalk. So that was really nice. And then we were also able to have our annual book fair this year. It was about 4 times longer than it usually is. We spread it out over 6 days instead of 2. The classes came down in small groups. Mr. Duff was there the whole time. And he started at the end of February. So the kids really only know him from a computer screen. And they were so cute when they walked in. Like, they got to see him in person. Their eyes got really big. A couple kindergartners told them that they loved him. Or, hey, I know you. So it was really nice besides having the book fair, really nice for the kids to be able to see him there, for him to interact with the kids and help them pick out some books also. So that was a great success. And then I will talk more about our hybrid model and instruction later on.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Matt Liebrock.
Also had nothing to add right now.
Thanks, Matt. Doug Wicks.
Thanks. Good evening. Everything is going on. And happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Doug. Did I miss anybody? I'm not seeing any hands. All right, then we are moving on to visitors' comments. As I said, nobody had sent anything in. So reports and discussion items. Joanne George, you are up.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to start with our financial reports as of the end of September. I'm happy to report that as of the end of September, we had $5.5 million in cash in the bank for the general fund. We had expended approximately 13% of our budget, and we had accounted for about 70% of our revenues. And I believe that Jackie also included the cash flow, and it all ties back to the cash flow. And our cash flow does look like we're going to be okay at this point in time. On the school lunch fund, we did at the middle school, our ice machine broke, and Doug's department was transferring ice between buildings to take care of this problem. And fortunately, as of June 30th, our school lunch fund ended with a surplus, and we were able to replace the ice machine at the middle school. So that's good news. All the other funds, there's really not much to report on. The federal fund, it's running as normal. We haven't received the grant money yet. The capital fund, we have the 2 small projects going on, and those are running as expected. After executive session, I believe that Jackie sent some attachments for you. The first attachment is where we are with our COVID expenditures to date. And we have spent, with everything that I've been keeping track of, approximately $278,000. And what I wanted to note this month is that Miss Oppenheimer, she's a godsend, is working with FEMA to get our application in to try to get reimbursement for some of these costs. Miss Oppenheimer and I are having bi-weekly phone calls on Thursdays with a FEMA representative who is helping us through the process. Good news and bad news. Certain things that we have been keeping track of are not eligible for reimbursement through FEMA. And an example of that is the cost of the budget vote. That's ineligible. But we're working through it, and we found other things that may be eligible that we can get reimbursed for, such as the cost of the buses for transporting food and the cost of the aids during those times. So we're working through that with FEMA. Not 100% sure where we're going to land, but I'll keep you apprised of that. The next document, it was in Jackie's email. I labeled it A to help us follow it through. I received this email yesterday. It's an update from Comptroller DiNapoli, and I'm optimistic about it. I'm just going to read a few little pieces of it for the public. It says local officials should not feel any urgency to act mid-year to curtail spending despite the 5.2% drop in October state sales tax revenue, according to DiNapoli. I think we will be getting more help from Washington, D.C. The question is how much and when. Our local governments are on the forefront of the pandemic response, and they need financial aid from the federal government to help them through this crisis. And the other part, I thought DiNapoli said neither the state legislature nor the local boards need to act on 2021 spending right now. So that's the most positive thing that I've heard come out of his office since this all started. The other thing to note has to do with they acknowledged that this past year's budget vote, the number of voters that came out were tripled from previous years. And the thing that they recognized is that the positive school passing rates were right about the same as they were when we had 1/3 of the voters coming out. And that's the first time I've heard the state acknowledge that. Then letter B has to do with our state aid revenues to date. And I'm happy to report that through the end or through November 15th, any of our state aid payments that we were expecting, we did receive our full aid. So we're still only looking at the 20% decrease from our accounts receivables as of June 30th that we receive in August and September for excess cost aid and our BOCES aid. But I have no updates on whether that's just a delay or a permanent reduction. And letter C, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mambretti. This was a request to bring back to our meetings.
Joanne, I don't see B and C on my email. Maybe I, yeah.
I think,
I combined the documents together, so it's the second attachment.
Oh, you got it insiders.
Yeah, you just scroll down.
Yeah, you do. Thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt.
I thought it
Joanne.
would make it easier.
As long as I'm talking, Joanne. So what you're saying is in June, what we were supposed to get coming in the year was reduced by 16%. I thought I remember that number, correct?
Approximately, yes.
And then did we get a subsequent payment in September or October or November?
Not for those revenues, not for
Not
those
yet. We don't
particular
know if
revenues.
that's going to continue or not then.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm gonna resurrect that grid that we've been using. We kind of abandoned it as we instituted the finance committee, and we've since from the finance committee talked about that maybe both would be where in the finance committee we'll go into much deeper detail, but to keep this high level view. For those, I'm just going to talk through it. I believe you all have it in front of you. To our one mystery viewer at home, I believe your name rhymes with Shelley Ferrillo. If you need a copy of this, let me know. But I'll just walk through where we are. And there is a miscalculation in the grid. We had to fix the formula. Today was a little bit of a crazy day. So I'll call your attention to that. So just remember the same disclaimers as usual. We don't put anything into these columns until we believe that they're bankable. So while a curveball can always be thrown, these are things we're pretty confident are savings or that we've realized or revenues that we have or have not realized. Again, the true number, there's always that gray area. We try to only capture the black and white part of that. Again, always with the thing that a curveball can mess this all up. So for salaries so far through the end of October, so this would be as of October 31st, we're about $25,000 under budget. For benefits, about $100,000 under budget. Equipment, way too soon to tell, so we just put a 0 there. That doesn't mean anything other than it's too soon to tell. Supplies, we believe we've already recouped about $25,000 in savings that we will realize. Contractual, about another $30,000. Textbook, software, library, tuition, that's just too soon, and so that's the 0. BOCES, we have not gotten any good data on that. So I know that's always one of the lines we try to watch. We don't feel we've saved or spent anymore. The crystal ball is too blurry there. And transportation, we believe we're about $25,000 under budget. So in the expenditures categories, which were all the categories I just read you, we seem to be about $205,000 to the good. And then debt service and transfers, again, look to be about $5,000 to the good. That has to do with the universal feeding and the fact that with no one charging lunches, we have nobody who has an outstanding balance in their lunches. So due to the hard work of the administration and the teachers working with us, we seem to be about 210 to the good as it comes to expenditure so far. As we move to the next few lines, the negatives turn from being good to being bad. So the property tax items, that $2,000 is actually $2,000 over budget, we believe, so far. and that's again to the good. However, the Erie County sales tax at this point, we're projecting to be about $90,000 under what's budgeted. So here again, the negatives are bad. So then that's about 8% less than our actual 1920 accrual. So what that basically means is that we are 210 to the good in expenditures and 88,000 to the bad in unrealized revenues at this point in the projection. So that 210 to the good with 88 to the bad, that actually goes down. If you see the number total, that number should be 122, which is just the 210 minus the 88. I believe you have a different number in there. That formula was wrong. So our total there right now is 122 to the good. With that, we have the 418 in the appropriated fund balance, which gives us additional cushion there. So really that gets us to about $500,000-ish, just over. The unappropriated fund balance has the 3.3 million. The 103 in appropriated reserves, we're going to spend that. So that's a little bit of a wash. So really we have the 122 to the good plus the 418 to the good. We have the 3.3 in the unappropriated fund balance. You'll then see the reserve, the named reserves there, and those in total have about another 1.7, just under 1.7. So that's kind of where we are. We are projecting positive at the moment. The 122 is positive, the 418 is positive, the 3.3 is positive, and the 1.7 is positive. What is not on your screen, we just didn't have enough time to do it, is we're also running the staffing numbers, which I know are always a part of this. All of those seem to be well within budget at the time, just in terms of FTEs. We have approximately the same number of FTEs this year that we had last year. What I'm doing is an actual belly button count to tell you how many bodies we have different. And when we look at total hours, we're paying for teacher aides, B&G clerical technicians, managerial, confidential, and appointed. We're actually down about 100 hours per week there. So the actual FTEs or belly buttons are well within what we had budgeted for the year, and the numbers at this point are trending positive. And again, these are savings that we believe are confident will be there. But again, a year ago, I would have told you the world would have looked a lot different than it does right now as well. Did that quick walk through that grid, and I know the rest of you who didn't have it in front of you, it's just a whirlwind of numbers. Any questions from the board who has it or anyone else?
Mark, first, thanks for bringing it back. I assume you and Joanne worked on it. I appreciate it. Really only two questions. So the next, let's just assume we're remote to the end of the year. Do we still pay the same to our transportation contract, or does that reduce?
That would be a negotiated thing, right, Joanne? We'd have to.
That would be a negotiated thing, yes. And I would take my same stance with First Student that if they're not providing a service, I can't pay them.
What did we do last year? Didn't someone recommend us to give us pay them a portion? Do I remember that?
Yes, they were asking for that, and we came up with a compromise and utilized the bus service 2 days a week to help with the meal delivery service. So we paid them 2/5 of their contract.
Okay. All right. And then the second one, and I don't understand BOCES at all, so it might be you might have to help me with the question, but the services that we're able to provide when COVID wasn't here compared to the services that we're able to provide with COVID here, are they similar? So basically, are those kids that need the services coming in 4 days a week and getting them like they would if it wasn't pre-COVID, or is it something different?
It's a very nuanced question. Long story short, we have to pay our BOCES bill, and they're providing services the best we can, the same way we are, still providing schooling, even though it looks in a hybrid model or whatever. The reason we can't forecast the BOCES right now is in the late spring, early summer, Joanne, we tell them what services we think we're going to need for the year. We then, as things come, add new services on top of that. However, what they haven't done yet is subtract any services that we said we think we're going to need this and didn't actually need yet. So they play this game where we kind of go in with here's what we think we need. We then, anytime we say, ooh, we need this too, they add it, but they have not yet subtracted the things that we said. We know we said we were going to need that, but we don't actually need that. So the number right now is artificially extremely inflated because we're making these early summer, late spring projections, and they only add until they get what they add. But in terms of the actual BOCES bill, the COVID doesn't impact that in any way, the same way that it still costs us just as much, if not more, to run the district. And so we need to collect all our revenues to do that. It still costs BOCES just as much, if not more, to run BOCES. So it doesn't always look the exact same way, and it might not be an apples to apples comparison, but it wouldn't impact this sheet because of that. Does that kind of make sense?
It does, except, I mean, to me, that answer says BOCES gets their money whether they spend 20 hours a week with a kid or they spend 40 hours a week with the kid. Is that pretty much accurate? Other than that look back.
Other than the things that we said we needed but didn't need, correct?
Yes. Okay. And that look back would be from what you projected last spring for this first quarter. And we don't see that until the second quarter. Okay.
Yeah, at least, depending on how they do it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. At some point, it finds its level. We're just not there yet.
Just to clarify, Mark, the BOCES line is not just student services, correct? Is that all BOCES, or is
It's right. And it's not just, it's technology services, it's infrastructure, it's internet. Obviously, the big moving number in that is the student services, but it's every service from policy services, web filtering, a lot of the technology we buy through BOCES, payroll, lunch management, pretty much anything that we buy cooperatively through BOCES is all in there. So that whole number is not just direct service to kiddos. It's the whole machine behind the machine that keeps us running.
Great.
And further clarification, the complications with BOCES and billing are not new to COVID. This is the way we do business, right? Not by our choice, but by their system.
They're not new to COVID, but they're not better because of COVID either.
Thanks, Mark.
Anybody else have questions for Joanne or Mark on the financials? Nobody, no hands? You were all set, Joanne, right? You're all done? Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the pupil services reports. Jerome, we're going to do pupil services and enrollment together. I'll introduce you one.
Yes.
All right,
All one.
you're up.
Hang on, Dennis, oh, there you go. Good. Okay.
Okay. As you know, school districts have a legal obligation for child fine, which is to identify students ages 3 through 21 with disabilities. Oftentimes, the school support teams discover through student analysis potential students with disabilities. Those teams are made up of parents, teachers, counselors, psychologists, and each building has a student support team along with a student support team for all of our in-district non-pubs as well. So those student support teams can make referrals to the Committee on Special Education. Last year, we had 10 referrals made to the CSE for the non-pubs, and 5 of those referrals turned into students that were classified and received support services. Parkdale had 13 referrals, and 10 of those students were classified and received IEPs with support services. The middle school and high school each had 1, and the middle school and high school each had 1 that was identified with an IEP and support services, for a total of 25 referrals and 17 students receiving classifications, IEPs, and support services. This year's current number, as of the day the data was pulled, because this is always a moving target as referrals are received either through pediatricians, parents' concerns, or student support teams. This year's current number of classified students is 301, which is slightly down from last year. The breakdown of classified students. This year I did a little different data poll from previous years. The data polls for 2021 are specifically in-district East Aurora students. They don't include the 100 students that are in the non-pubs, whether they are in our district or other districts, including students from other districts that attend our non-pubs. So this is what the breakdown of students and their disabilities looks like. We have 84 students with learning disabilities, which is always one of the higher areas, along with other health impairment, and followed up by the speech impaired students. So those three are usually very consistently the larger areas of disability. If we look at the schools in district that are non-pubs, we have a new school this year. It's Sprouting Minds Montessori School. And along with the four that most of you are very familiar with, Immaculate has currently 10 students with IEPs that are being serviced. Aurora Waldorf has 5, Gow has 4, Mandela has 4, and Sprouting Minds, which I'm sorry I left off of this slide, does have 1 receiving some support services for speech. The preschool numbers are consistent. We currently have 24. I'm sorry, but last year it was 24. Our current number for preschool is at 21. So we're slightly down in our preschool classification at this point in time. As we look at the numbers for students receiving BOCES services, we're currently between Erie 1 and Erie 2 at 36 students. And then as we look at the private special education placements, we are at 12 students. Last year's graduation exit outcome data showed that 2 students with disabilities, IEPs, received advanced Regents diplomas, 6 received Regents, and then 5 received Regents with a CDOS credential as well. And currently we have 86 students that receive testing accommodations or classroom accommodations based on an impairment that impacts one of life's daily functions, and they have 504 accommodation plans. With our academic intervention services, the numbers speak for themselves. We provide K through 8 ELA and reading support for students and math support as well. It's broken down by grade level. As you can see, the number of students that are seen for each of those interventions. And currently at the high school, again, this is a moving target, 34 students are receiving AIS services. Homeschooled students, I know this was an area of interest earlier at the beginning of the year. And we have, let me just check. Currently 86 students. Oh, no, wrong one, sorry. 81 students for the school year 2021, and followed by the data that you see for last year at 58. So a little bit of an increase in homeschooled students. Of course, we have a new paradigm this year with the remote learners from home, which it should not be confused with homeschooled students. The homeschooled students are separate. They provide curriculum and scope and sequence and follow our Commissioner Regulations 100.10 for homeschooling compliance, and that is monitored with quarterly reports, which are turned in every quarter by date. And then we have an increase in our English language learners this year. We currently have 6 students. So that is has doubled just in the last week or so with a family. And so we're pleased to be able to support them and get those students the English language learner support through Erie 2 BOCES like we do for our other 3 students as well. That is the pupil services report. Did you want me to take questions now, or do you want me to hold off until after the enrollment report?
I'm talking and I was muted. Why don't you take questions on the pupil services report? Is there any board member who has a question on the pupil services report?
I have one, Jerome. You said that our number of students who are in special ed have decreased this year. So does that mean our expense, our cost will come down in that line item?
It's hard to say, Terry. It's hard to put a cost with services because every student is so unique in the services that they receive. I do know that in general, from previous years, Joanne would be able to speak a little bit better to that with some preparation. But I do know that overall our costs are lower because we have had some high need students that have moved on and exited out of East Aurora schools.
Thank you.
Any other board member?
Mary Beth, I just have a quick one. Jerome, I saw that on the homeschooling, there was a big jump. I think it was 1920 for homeschooling. Did it go up to 58? Yeah, 58. Do you know what that was attributed to, or is it just, it seemed pretty consistent in previous years, and then we had sort of a big jump.
That wasn't that one immunizations last year?
It was
Yeah,
fixed.
it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a good question, good catch. And I had to do a little digging because it looked a little questionable to me as well. To recollect and refresh my brain, it was the immunization situation, but many of those students did later on return to school. They just wanted the parents wanted a different pacing to the immunization. And then once they caught up in January, I think it was, the number drastically reduced when they reassimilated it back into the schools.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else before the enrollment report?
I think
very
you're good, Jerome. Go ahead.
Sure. The enrollment report, student enrollment, as you can see, next slide, Dennis. Student enrollment K-12, currently, as of Wednesday, the number is 1,700 even, and East Aurora residents perennially placed is 171. And these students are not just in the non-pubs in East Aurora, but they are throughout the region of Western New York. And then the number of homeschooled students is 81 for a total enrollment of 1952. This number, the 1952, really is what the state report card uses in when we start to look at how our grant monies are allocated in how many we have to calculate the per pupil amount for several of the grants through the consolidated grants or title grants to get student support for a number of different things regarding AIS and students that are eligible for free and reduced lunches. Next slide, Dennis. Okay, the comparison of past and projected enrollments, as you can see in red, right in the middle, 2021, total enrollment of 1,700. If you look at the K4 enrollment, 586, which is down slightly from previous years, as well as just a little lower in the middle school and then in the high school as well. So I would recommend for next year, we do another scientific study for a 5-year projection to refresh the data based on the trend that we're seeing from COVID. Okay, are there any questions on the enrollment numbers?
Anybody?
Yes, Jerome, it's interesting to see. Could you go back a couple slides to the placements? Yeah, that one. It's interesting to see that there's been a decline in enrollment in the private schools for students from East Aurora. Do you have any reason to be able to attribute that to any particular reason?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's really up to anybody's call. It's tough. I know a number of the private schools' tuitions have gone up, and I would also say that once from the previous year we had a lot of students that started out in the private schools because they thought it was a way around immunization requirements, until they found out that they have the same requirements that we do as a public school. So that may attribute to a little bit of the falling number as well.
Dan, I would say just anecdotally that the number of private school options continues to decrease, and with the economy being what it is, the affordability of that continues to decrease. In addition, many of the private schools are trying to run 5-day-a-week options, which means they've also had to limit their enrollment capacities beyond what they normally have. So I think it's a bit of a perfect storm, all related to, ultimately it goes back to a bad economy, that private schools are able to weather better economies better. Or they just like us. Could be that too.
Curious, because do we have a handle on the number of kids that left in the beginning of this year to go to private school? And I'm going to assume that's because of COVID. Any idea what that number is? Because to me, I would add that to the 171 to really get to a real projection.
Yeah, numbers, yes, we would have, but individuals, no. Nor do the conversations that take place to know why. Those would not be there as well.
Sure.
So.
But I assume that the 171 is the total number of students in private schools this year. Is that correct?
Total number of East Aurora students that are enrolled in a non-public school in the region, not necessarily in one of the 4 in East Aurora, 5 in East Aurora.
Sure. Some of them are going to Buffalo, to Canisius, or to one of the other schools. Yeah. So there's no additional number beyond the 171 related to the COVID crisis, is there?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
No, there would be a net change. Let's say, right, we might have gone down to 160, and then another dozen because of COVID chose to go back. So it would come out in the wash there.
Yeah, but there's no way of knowing that.
The data on and I apologize for not catching this earlier, but the data on the East Aurora students that are parentally placed is literally a year behind, because that's what they're reporting on their school report cards, and those are the numbers that Grants and Finance gives us. So those are the only numbers we know for sure, John. We won't know. We won't know this year's 2021 enrollment in parentally placed options until next year.
Oh, so in other words, it could be
5 pounds over to the left one.
Higher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's confusing there because it says 2021, so it makes it look like those 171 students are the ones that are attending private placements currently, but apparently it could be a larger or smaller number. We don't know.
I would anticipate it to be a larger number.
Yeah.
All right, that answers my question. Thanks, Jerome. Thanks for putting all the work into this too.
Absolutely.
Anybody
other
else?
questions? Thank you.
So,
Thanks, Jerome. Thanks
so
very
when
much.
when we go from 1763 last year to 1700 this year in our school, when those 63 students move on, they don't really tell us where they're going. They just don't show up. Is that the idea?
Well, they could be students that graduated, students that moved. We don't know. We don't know.
We would, after the fact, we'll know anecdotally because we'll get records requests. So again, you have to look for your breakage between folks who moved out of the area. Obviously a larger 12th grade and a smaller kindergarten, something like that. The rest is over September and October, we'll get records requests. If a kid truly disappears and we don't get a records request within a reasonable amount of time, we're supposed to call CPS just so that they could locate that child. That seldom happens. It's normally just a delay in paperwork, especially with COVID going on and everyone being so backlogged. So we gather that information anecdotally, but we do not keep a central repository of that. We just know that kids who aren't here and who not have had records requested from us. But it's kind of case by case on the receiving schools end to reach out to us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis.
Thanks, Jerome.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on to item D, the update on the district capital facilities project. Mr. Mambretti, that's yours.
Actually, we're going to have Ms. George take a little bit of the lead on where we are on that. I'm going to lead the hybrid conversation a little more, but
Okay.
we'll talk about. What I'll say is, if you haven't driven down North Grove lately, do so. The building finally, after 100 and how many years, has an entrance that of stature that places it among the other two buildings. It really is an impressive way to identify the building as a school and as a main entrance. Joanne, can you talk a little bit about where we are in that capital project? And we'll go from there then.
Yes, we currently have two projects going on, a repair reserve project, which is the high school gym floor, drains in the locker room, and the middle school entrance. They're all coming along well and are projected to be done on the 25th, which I think is next Wednesday. So it's coming along great and it looks fabulous. The second project that we're in the process of is our second 100K project, which is the business office suite. And again, that is projected to be done on the 25th also, next Wednesday. I was in there today. The floor is all done. Doug's crew has done a fabulous job with the electrical. They found different lights and have put them in and they look fabulous. And they're in the process of painting. My office was painted today and it looks really, really nice. I think it's going to turn out great. And that's really all there is to report on that, unless anybody has a question.
I think it's just also important as part of the financial report to talk about our obligation to, our legal obligation to keep our buildings up, and also the fact that these are funds that can't be used for other purposes.
Correct.
That constant reminder of that.
Correct.
All right. Thank you for that. We are moving on to item 10 on the agenda, items for board discussion rather, the update on the hybrid learning model. Mr. Mambretti.
All right. Superintendent Russ had to step out briefly, so I'm going to kind of lead the charge on this up to the minute changing scenario, and then I'm going to bounce it to each of my colleagues to kind of give a building level perspective. Our model continues to go well. Our in-house protocols and safety and education are complemented and we believe are as safe as possible in the environment that we have. Not due to internal issues of staffing or student attendance, which many of our colleague districts had. That was not an issue that has been facing us. Obviously, there have been cases. We take each of those seriously, but the numbers have not been what other districts have seen. Due to the larger community spread, which is in the larger Western New York community, and also due to, at the time, going into a yellow zone, which would require a testing protocol, we chose to pivot to shut down the next 2 weeks, so Thanksgiving week and the week after. Since then, we just today got announced that we're now in the orange zone. I'm sure everyone in Western New York knows this. The guidance of what it means to live and teach and reopen in an orange zone, we have some generalities, but we are waiting for further guidance. What we know is that in the yellow zone, 20% of our people had to be tested on what was a weekly and then became a biweekly basis. In the orange zone, to reopen, among other requirements, are you have to first test 100% of people who will be returning to campus. And secondly, you then have to test 100% of people on a rolling 4-week process. So every 4 weeks, everyone that returns to campus goes again. We do know that in the yellow zone, and we also believe in the orange zone, although this isn't finally confirmed yet because this is all happening as we speak. Once students are not there, we are allowed to keep our campuses open to faculty and staff, which is our current plan. But again, we're waiting for more guidance as it goes to the orange zone, and we should get that in the next 24 hours, hopefully, to go from there. We want to reassure parents that we are coming up with, we believe in the power of kids being there. We believe it's good for kids. We believe it's good for the community. We believe it's good for parents. We believe it's good for the economy. And our goal is to reopen school to the hybrid model as soon as safely possible. As much as we believe it's important, we don't believe it's more important than safety. We are working feverishly behind the scenes to, number one, make a smooth pivot to this hybrid model, and at the exact same time pivot to what it means to reopen. We're building a yellow plan. Today we started building an orange plan, and we're also starting to talk about a red plan all at the same time. And all of that is kind of by fuzzy guidance that seems to have a few more questions than answers. Regardless of the model in the plan, the testing does seem to be a component of it. We were going to be extremely proactively clear on the testing process, the testing methods, what test we're offering, what we're going to be expecting of the community before we begin that. And we will not test any kid without proactive parent consent. So we're not asking for consent yet. What we want to do is roll out this is what testing is going to look like. This is the who, what, where, when, how of testing. And at that point, ask parents to do it. At this point, we understand the burden that the pivot places on parents. We understand that. We're sympathetic to that. Again, we're asking for their patience, and overall, they have been patient and flexible and understanding, and just try to keep the learning going. Let us do what we can to quickly open schools again as soon as we believe it is safe and appropriate to do so, and we will continue to partner with parents in that method. We don't have a ton of answers right now on testing and what it's going to look like and when and where and how it's going to happen, other than we will communicate that and we will ask for consent prior to doing that. So that should hopefully put the mind at ease. What I'd like to do is turn it over to each of the buildings, and they can talk about what this remote model, which for now is scheduled for 2 weeks, and on paper, should the numbers remain as they are, might just be 2 weeks. However, for that to happen, a lot of things need to fall into place. So just talk about the pivot from our current hybrid model to an all remote model. So we'll go from biggest to smallest in
Wait,
terms
Mark,
of student.
I just want to interject and just get one clarification out there. So we have been telling folks on the yellow model that they could opt out of testing, but right now on the orange model,
right. So
there is a requirement that everybody be tested.
As of right now, so the grid that came out had some guidance. They seem to be following most of it, but there are a couple of things. So we're waiting for more guidance on it. But our understanding at this point is in the yellow model, you could choose not to be tested and school could reopen so long as 20% of your population was tested and that 20% was below the county average. The current guidance that we have for orange, which again is not set in stone but seems pretty consistent, is that for anyone to return to campus, once students return to campus, you have to be willing to consent to testing. You have to test first and be willing to be tested once every 4 weeks.
Okay, and that guidance obviously could change between now and tomorrow morning or next week.
Yes, and that's pretty much how fast it is changing. But yes, but even in that, regardless of the yellow testing, orange testing, red testing, we're going to be transparent and ask for consent.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to go from biggest to smallest, not in terms of administrator or ego, but in terms of student. We're going to start with Mr. Roberts and Mr. Moore on what the next 2 weeks, at the very least, will look like for our high school students.
Thanks for clarification, Mr. Ambretti. I appreciate that. As I've been telling our students and our faculty and staff over the last week or so, that considering our situation, I don't think we could have asked for a better start at the high school. We've seen our students and teachers navigate and excel in the classroom, like I said earlier, on the athletic field, with our clubs and our activities. And so with confidence, I'll give you a brief overview of how the transition is going to occur at the high school from our hybrid approach to our remote only approach. This was sent out, just so everybody knows, sent out to our parents and our students earlier in the day. They received a summary as well. So we're going to maintain our current bell schedule. And our students will continue to attend a live stream of their core classes and their languages Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Additionally, our blue students will attend live streaming of their electives on Monday and Tuesday only, and our red group will attend live streaming of their electives on Thursday and Friday only. We thought that was important to start live streaming the electives because obviously the students will not be on site. We also thought it was important to have them attend 2 times a week instead of 4 times a week to give them a sense of relief during a full day of live streaming, so they can have a period or possibly 2 off during their day. Some other things that we brought to the attention of our students and parents, physical education classes. Students are going to have recorded lessons to view when they choose to review them, and have fitness activities that they need to complete when they want to complete them, and then submit them to the teachers. Music performance students will attend their lesson groups, but will not attend a full band rehearsal or a full orchestra rehearsal, and you can understand why. The students who are scheduled for resource room will attend resource rooms Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Students who have alt study halls or AIS support, they will also attend Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm also really excited working with our teachers. We're going to still run our academic learning center after school through teachers assigning students to the academic learning center or students wanting to be in the academic learning center. They're going to be able to meet in a Google Meet, and then we will break them off into these new Google Meet breakout rooms. So they'll be able to meet with content specific teachers when they're in the academic learning center. So really excited that the technology is going to allow for that. We're going to continue with Wednesdays, the schedule that we've had already this year during the hybrid approach. Our Wednesdays will include office hours, club meetings, some supply pickup and drop-offs, and also our weekly wellness checks. So Wednesdays will look the same. We found those to be very helpful for students and for teachers. And like I said earlier, while the high school is in the remote only scenario, our winter sports will be on hold until we have further guidance on that. So we're, again, very fortunate and thank Mark and Dennis for their leadership on the incorporation of the technology this year, and also very fortunate to have had 3 months of practice of live streaming lessons and balancing teachers at home students at home versus students in the classroom. We're thinking this will be although not what we want, it'll be a smooth transition to a full remote model at the high school.
Mr. Moore, just can I ask you to jump in? I know we were talking about the Monday, Tuesday, blue, and Thursday, Friday, red. But this upcoming Monday, Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we had already communicated with our parents that we would go Monday, blue, and Tuesday, red. Is that still the model we're using, just for clarity's sake, or no?
Yes, that is the model we'll be using this week.
This upcoming week?
Yep, this upcoming week.
Go ahead.
So in partnership with Mr. Roberts, we've been trying to identify what areas I can also support and lead in. And the main thing that I've been doing is making sure that all of our students stay engaged, that nobody slips through the cracks. So we've been developing a system to identify if there are any students that aren't engaging in their Google Meets. And in our hybrid model, I've been connecting with any students that miss a Google Meet. So we have developed a similar system as we pivot to remote instruction. And so anyone who misses 2 Google Meet sessions in a week will expect to receive some contact from me so I can support them to determine if there's anything that they need to engage, whether it's tech or social emotional support or academic support. So we want to just keep our students engaged and learning and to feel supported and a part of the community. So.
At this point, any questions about the high school model, at least for the next 2 weeks?
Bill, could you explain what you mean by the wellness checks? Is that just what Travis talked about, or is that something completely different?
So on Wednesdays, both at the middle school and the high school, we are required to do a wellness check on our students. So we do that through an email. Are you hearing me?
No.
We do that through an email to our students that includes a reminder of office hours, a reminder of class and club meetings. It also checks in on them. How are they feeling? How are they dealing with the hybrid approach to instruction? Do they need any support? Do they want to talk to their school counselor? Do they want to talk to Mr. Coleman or Mrs. 25? And it's been we're required to do it, but it's also had a benefit of connecting with kids who are maybe struggling with a hybrid approach to teaching and learning, or just struggling in general and need some extra support.
And that's a contact to every single student.
Mm-hmm.
Right, middle school and high school. And then Travis was talking about those that maybe are not attending
right.
there. And those are separate conversations in addition to the wellness checks.
So Bill, with the wellness checks, does every student then have to reply back?
It does fulfill their attendance requirement for the day. So we are taking attendance based on their responses, but we are getting a great response to those.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions regarding what the high school or high school athletics are going to look like in the next 2 weeks? Okay, then maybe we'll pivot to Mr. Brown and Mr. Leibrock regarding the middle school over the next 2 weeks.
Mine's going to be short and sweet because I could pretty much just say ditto. Bill and Travis and Matt and I have really, and I'd like to thank Bill especially, been very transparent because we have tried to have as much consistency 5-12. Obviously, there's some differences and there's some minor differences, but really it's going to be very consistent with everything Bill just said. The one thing that I'm really confident about is, and I've had a lot of discussions recently with some teachers and teacher leaders, we look back to when we had to do this last spring and when we went from that March 13th meeting and then March 16th, we were remote, and how difficult that was. And we look at it now and you just have that sense throughout the building with the teachers of confidence. There's no panic in anyone's face right now. Like what Bill said, we don't want this to happen. None of us want this to happen. We want the students in the building. But with that said, we're prepared this time. You could see that the teachers are confident that we're going to keep instruction rolling forward. So I won't repeat everything Bill said, but just to paraphrase, we'll follow the same schedule. We have our current bell schedule. The students who are in our blue group will attend Google Meets with their elective classes, which are like the FACS classes, the technology, health, business, general music, art, those classes. And then the red group will do the same on Thursday and Friday. The core classes, all students will attend 4 days a week of the live interaction. So the teachers right now are working hard on just making sure that the students have everything they need. We did send home our blue group of students yesterday with the supplies that our teachers felt that they need the best we could, and we're going to do the same with our red students, or the red group, later this week. So I believe that it's going to work. I believe it's going to be successful. Where we're working at now, Travis and shared this approach of the students who are missing the Google Meets with Matt and I, and we're working now with our counseling center. Our counselors like to get involved with that often if we notice that a student hasn't been showing up. So we're in the process right now of developing that plan, and that's our goal by the end of the week, is to have that plan set in stone. We have an advisory, which is a team leader meeting coming up next week, where we're going to finalize that. So there may be some adjustments there, but we are committed to making sure that if a student seems to be falling off of the grid, that we are going to make sure that that doesn't happen. And I can tell you, we've spent countless hours doing that so far, and all of the students that are falling off of the grid, and I don't know why I say it like that, but the students that we have those concerns about, we've been able to reach, some with great success, others with some success. But the bottom line is we're able to reach with their parents, we're able to connect with them, and I feel confident in the system we have in place and the people that we have in place.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
It'll be very similar to the high school, but any questions about what the middle school is going to look like? All right. And for the person who cannot say ditto, Miss Lyons and Mr. Leibrock, what's Parkdale going to look like at least the next 2 weeks?
We are going to basically take our hybrid schedule and roll it right over to remote. So right now, on half of a day, the kids are already all remote. So all of our AIS, all of our specials, support services, those will continue to remain remote. And then the 2.5 hours that the kids would be in person, they will be with their teacher on a Google Meet. So we'll keep the start and end times the same for the morning and the afternoon for consistency for families. If they have a first grader and a third grader, school starts at 8:45 for everybody, or 12:55. They'll get on. It'll be nice for the teachers because it's still only 10 or 12 students to manage in a Google Meet, as opposed to 22 5-year-olds in a Google Meet at once. It'll be more manageable for our age level. And within that 2.5 hours, they're going to structure it differently, depending on, if it's kindergarten or if it's 4th grade. So they'll have snack breaks in there. They'll have brain breaks. They'll have, wiggle breaks, go outside for a little bit, types of breaks built into that 2.5 hours. So it won't be straight 2.5 hours, but they'll just be teaching the same content that they're covering in person right now. Then the kids will have that break in the middle of the day. For right now, it's travel, rest, lunch, play. We'll keep that, and then they'll start up with their afternoon group in the afternoon, just like they do now. And then on that virtual half of the day, besides their specials, their lessons, their AIS, they will also continue to complete any asynchronous Google Classroom or paper activities that their teachers gave them. We did send home, or are sending home, enough pen and paper activities, especially for the K1 and 2 for the next several weeks. So we're pretty prepared. Our teachers were, we kind of knew it was coming, but when it actually happens and it was announced today, everybody was pretty upset and bummed. And we've been moving along so well. The kids have been getting into the routine. They're so happy to be there. They are grateful. They thought this might happen in September. So they are grateful they got a couple months in, and they know the kids, they know the families. They've built that relationship in person at this point. So that is a positive, if there is any positive in any of this. So any questions?
Jessica, Dan Brunson, you your voice broke up there a minute on my screen when you were saying that you send paper and pencil materials home, especially for the something or other group, and I couldn't hear what you said.
Yeah, at this level, we don't want to do all computer activities or have them writing on a computer. We work on pencil grip and letter formation.
Yeah.
So we've sent paper activities home for everybody, but the amount is definitely more. I said K1 and 2. Kindergarten, first and second. Yeah.
K1
Yep.
and 2. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. That makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any questions about the Parkdale model for Ms. Lyons or Mr. Liebrock? And then
Probably Jessica, the only question I have, we talked about, accountability at the middle school and high school. Do you feel comfortable with your ability to connect with kids that are having issues logging on remote? I would feel like you've already sort of seen some of that for the afternoons or when they're already doing half the day in remote. And
Yeah, we've worked through it with some families for the virtual half of the day. This will be a little different because it's the core academics that they would be missing if they are missing. So at this level, it's not so much on the kids or the kids' responsibility. It's a lot to do with each family situation and where the kids are during that 2.5 hours. So today at our faculty meeting, we talked about just addressing it on a case-by-case basis as it comes up in there's different reasons and different families are going through different things right now. So we decided to just address it case by case. Our counseling center has already worked with a couple of families on steps to take with the teacher to try to work our way through this. So we'll continue to do that if we see it, when we see it happen when we're all remote.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other board member for Jessica? Julie?
Yeah, just a quick thought. The kiddos that are new to us with a English second language, they will continue also?
Yes, we have, I have one at Parkdale. I think Matt Brown has 2 at the middle school, but we were working with the ELL teacher to talk about, first of all, different programs they can use that would benefit them rather than sitting in a virtual meeting. And they speak very little English. And then we also talked about the ELL teacher pulling them out into separate groups. But I actually talked to the mother today. She may be pursuing homeschooling at this point, just because she realizes 100% virtual isn't going to be as beneficial as if they were in school.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
we have a plan if we have to use it.
From the rest of us, from Doug and Jerome and Joanne, in my offices, we just kind of chug along as the stage crew, and we'll continue to do that. There are a couple other things that the superintendent wanted me to mention. First of all, we do have some resources in this pivot. If there is increased need for internet access, we have some resources through Spectrum where families can get affordable, reliable internet. We also have some short-term patches available for families who qualify in terms of a hotspot. We don't have one for everybody. We don't have any close to one for everybody, but we do have those options to keep the learning going. At this point, the goal is to shut down for as short a term as possible. It's definitely going to be the 2 weeks. Our goal is to get up and running just as soon as we believe it is safe and appropriate to do so. Like we've done through this entire pandemic, the information is changing by the minute. We're going to pledge to, when we know something, to communicate it clearly and proactively with folks. We're going to ask the community to continue to partner with us. Certain districts are ahead, certain districts are behind. We've tended to take this slow and steady approach, and it has served us well. We thank the community for its trust, and we ask that continue. At the same time, we know there's a lot of questions. Because we've had the 2.5 months, many families now feel comfortable reaching out to their principals directly or teachers directly. That remains an option. It's a little ironic, but the Reopen EA K-12 email address is still there. So any emails that you don't know where to ask, you can email them to reopen@eak12.org. We may have to update that for short-term closing at EAK12, but right now it's still reopen@EAK12. That was our general email box that was there. We understand as this is changing, we kind of knew it was coming. We didn't know when it was coming. We didn't know what the requirements are. There are going to be, we're trying to move the masses forward first, and then from there, double back on any of those specific situations, ELL situations, special ed situations, things like that. We're dedicated to making this work for every family, not just as many families as possible, every family. The timing is a little fortuitous with kind of having those 2.5 days with parent-teacher conferences before the Thanksgiving break. So it's not a straight 2 weeks out. If we can get through these 2 weeks and reopen, we believe the disruption is going to be minimal. If we have to continue, the big reassurance, the big thing we've heard is, so we're going back to what we did in the spring. We are not going back to what we did in the spring. The experience that the kids have, the families have, the teachers have, the live streaming, the PD, the dedication, all the lessons learned. We are very, very, very proud of what we did in the spring based on what we had in the time frame we had to do it. But nobody would say that it was enough or that it was good enough. We are not going back to the spring. It may feel like we are because your kids will be around your kitchen table once again. But we believe that what we are able to offer your family and what your child is able to engage with in return to us is going to be a better product than you had in the spring. It's not going to be them being in the classroom hybrid, and it's definitely not going to be them being in the classroom 5 days a week. But we continue to pledge to do what's best for every family, and the lessons, the learning, the reflection, the PD, the dedication, the growth that we've seen from our teachers. I'll say on behalf of the superintendent, from our administrators, and even from our families and our students, we believe that we're doing everything we can to keep this going in as good a way, better. We would put up our model against any other model in the region or the state. And we just really want to reassure parents that. And then when we do talk to reopening, which we believe is in the best interest of kids, when it is safe and appropriate to do so, that will be a partnership again with parents and the community to do so, just as it was this whole time through. We don't know when that's going to be. We don't know what that's going to be. The guidance is changing, and we don't get any inside track on this. We find out from the governor just like everyone else does via press conference. But as soon as we get that, we quickly go behind the scenes and begin planning multiple responses to every curveball that's thrown at us. So those were just some general reassurances. The other thing I want to talk about is, as we pivot to this model, we are continuing our universal feeding, including for families who have not chosen to participate in it so far. Any family that needs food during the closure, breakfast and lunch, can email eafood@eak12.org, eafood@eak12.org. We are currently running a pickup model every Monday and Wednesday that you will be able to pick up enough meals for your child to have breakfast and lunch every day of the week. And that will continue no matter how long or short the shutdown currently is. And that's pretty much kind of the preamble or post-amble stuff. Any questions at all from anyone in the room about zones and colors and shutdowns and pivots and remote and anything else related to any of that?
Let me just start by thanking you all. You've done a tremendous job of being able to put this together, and you appear to be very well prepared to take on this transition to a full remote. It is going to be hard for folks to go back to that, because I think it's, people are struggling, but you've got the webs, the email sites for food and for reopen on the district website. You may want to just remind folks that if they have questions or concerns as they go on, if they're specific to their child, first order of business is for them to contact their teacher. If it's about lessons and that kind of thing, if it's related to something about remote that they need to talk to an administrator, it's the building principal. If it's generic about remote learning and just questions or concerns about what color we're in or what does it mean, those are appropriate to go to the reopen email address.
The ironically named reopen@eak12.org, and the other one is eafood@eak12.org. And those are both email addresses.
I think folks have pretty much, tried to take that approach. I hope you're not getting too many emails on that are related to individual students. So just remind.
Not anymore. In the
that.
beginning, it was just, I don't know who to ask this question to. I think because we were able to open those
Right.
connections, and I know the administrators and the teachers have placed a priority these last 2 months on relationship first. And that's built those bridges that are going to sustain us through this.
Well, I want to, again, thank you all for all that hard work on getting this, getting us ready to pivot so quickly. Does anyone else on the board have any questions or comments to make? When's our next our board meeting in
December, I think.
December is, I'm just checking the date on that.
It's the 16th.
It's the
Wednesday,
16th.
16th.
So, if I suppose I will just say, if the administration feels like there's a need for a board meeting prior to the 16th because of that gap in between and their hope to be able to have that testing plan in place and to reopen, then we can certainly set something up to have a special board meeting.
Excellent.
Anyone else?
Just a
All
great
right.
big thank you for all your work.
Yeah, huge thank you all around. No legislation, orange legislation, orange. Anything else? Does anyone need a break? Show a hand. Otherwise I'm gonna go through the consensus agenda and we'll wrap the rest of the meeting up. All right, I'm not seeing any hands up. So is there anyone who wants to remove a consensus item for separate discussion?
I had a question just on, it's actually under the minutes. Under B of the minutes.
Minutes B.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be removed, but there was an X out on the outside column of one of those, which we had asked Jerome to do. It's action item number 53, and the X indicated that the program recommendation exceeds our current budget. So I was just wondering about that one.
Jerome, are you with us? Can you just, in a general term, speak to that at all?
He may have stepped away. If that is the case, we will follow up through the superintendent's memo.
I'm gonna suggest we do that. Send out a response to Terry, if that's okay, and then we can follow up on that later. Okay.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the consensus agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by
Terry.
Let's see who moved it. Terry, seconded by John Sagatti. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
7-0. All right. Moving on to page 5 of your agenda, items requiring board action. Item A, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the effective date of the resignation of Lori A. Schaller, 1.0 special education grade 7 through 12 teacher. We originally accepted that on October 26th. The meeting, we need to revise the date from November 20th of 2020 to November 13th of 2020. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dan Brunson, second.
Second.
Second by Judy Malice. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Item B, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the resolution adopting the 2020 retention and disposition schedule for the New York local government records. Oh, it's outlined in your agenda and in the attachment. May I have a motion?
So
Moved by Jessica, seconded by John Sagatti. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. Items.
It's nice to know that there's still some mundane things going on.
Yeah. That's so true, Dan. Item C, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the 2020-2021 emergency school lunch contract with Personal Touch Food Service, Inc. And that contract is attached to your agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Judy Malice, second.
Second.
Seconded by Kim Daniel. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried 7-0. So our next meeting is December 16th, but stay, keep on your emails, because if we need to have a special meeting to address some of the issues of our potential reopening, we will do that. May I have
Mary
a
Beth,
motion? Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you know, are those meetings for the legislature, are those in person still? Or are they virtual? Did he ever change it over?
I
We got
thought
a
somebody had. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Jessica.
We got notice from ECASB that the legislative team had at least was making efforts to at least temporarily meet virtually.
Okay.
Good.
That's good. Okay.
And that may be forced by today's announcement as well.
Yeah. Yes, this was before today's announcement, obviously.
Right.
So
Okay.
I thought they had not been doing that because technologically they couldn't.
that was their claim.
together.
They
think
just
by
didn't. They just didn't like shifting to a technological solution. It's a personal preference on the part of the director.
In one of his recently long-winded weekly addresses, he mentioned how much he doesn't like technology and how he's been struggling to come up with Zoom meetings, etc. So I think now he's being forced to do it.
Well, maybe we could force him to send those memos by snail mail.
Dan, if you want to sound hip, it's not a shift to tech, it's a pivot. Pivot and hybrid are the words of the year.
There you go.
If you don't use the word pivot and hybrid at every chance you get, you're not living in 2020.
Got it.
That and unprecedented times. We're keeping a tally of how often we say unprecedented times.
And the new normal.
Yes.
The new
yes.
norm. Oh, yeah.
May we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Brunson, second.
Thank Kim.
Kim
Second.
Daniel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
7-0.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving. Stay safe, everyone. Be
Take
safe.
care.
Be safe.
Bye.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, good
Right.
night.